Hey everyone, RogueGold here, welcome back to the Division 2, and today I've got a bit of a special build video for you. Now, if you have watched my channel for any good length of time, you may know that I have this ongoing Slayer build. There are now 4 iterations of it, evident by the title. There was once a 3.0, a 2.0, etc. Essentially what these videos are following along with one specific build template that I made years ago. It caters specifically to how I like to play the Deadzone in PvP. It's the loadout that I use like 95% plus of the time that I'm in there, and in general I've always liked the ability to reference people to the builds they see me use in videos, and ever since sharing this I've seen many of you say that you really enjoy running this too. The promise that I made all that time ago when I first made like a 2.0 version was that if and when the build changes any significant way, I will update you all in a video like this, and so that's what we've got today. The Slayer has undergone maybe its most transformative evolution yet. I had been getting a fair few comments from some people saying that they felt like the old iteration just wasn't competing well enough in today's DZ and PvP meta, and yeah, that is a feeling that had been creeping up on me in the recent months too. To be fair, I did construct the overall framework and template for the build years ago, and so a lot can change within that time. So in the recent months here, I've been working on some refinements to the build. I tested many different tweaks to it, and I think I've come out with what should be the strongest version of the build yet. At least one that is fully calibrated and tuned to compete in the Division 2's current day sandbox and meta. So I'll quit rambling, let's just jump straight into the breakdown so I can show you what's changed. As we do, want to give a major shout out and thank you to our channel members. You all continue supporting everything that I aim to do on this channel, which I'm beyond appreciative of, so thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so here's the build. Again, if you have seen those past iterations of the Slayer, then right away you might recognize a few changes here and there. Overall, like the core principle of how the build functions isn't too different. I've kept a pretty similar distribution of damage and armor. For example, I'm using a lot of the same like core pieces to get my damage, and like my exotics are the same. But with the past iterations, there were just a couple of areas that really needed some improvement, right? Some transformation. Stuff like my talents, my skills, a few other things. So as we go through, of course, I'll show you what is in the build itself, but then I'll talk a little bit about why I felt it needed to change compared to before. So let's get straight to it. Beginning with my primary, I have the Eagle Bearer exotic AR. As I will always state when we go over this build, this is not mandatory, it is not required. This is my personal favorite weapon in the game, and I really enjoy how it handles and plays within PvP, but that does not mean that you have to run it, because again, I know a lot of you do not have this. Any decent assault rifle, really, I think is going to do you well. If you want to run the St. Elmo's here, you totally could. It's got really great crit mods to back that up. You could run a FAMAS, a Carbine 7, a Police M4, the Lexington, of course, like anything. Then let's talk about my secondary. Now before, I used to say that I didn't really, like it didn't matter what the secondary was, you could run whatever. In the recent months here, I've really adopted the shotgun philosophy. Shotguns are really potent, a lot of PvP players use them, and so for me, having this M870 with Brazen as just a backup weapon for those close range situations has been really nice. I'm pretty sure there are a few good clips within the gameplay segments where you will see me using this, and it puts people down. So yeah, I've never used my secondary more than I have since slotting this thing in. Doesn't mean you've got to run it. Of course, it is still a secondary weapon if you want to run really whatever else you can, but yeah, I've really enjoyed using this. For my sidearm, this truly doesn't really matter what you run. The one thing that I do recommend either on your secondary or your pistol is to have the Sledgehammer talent. This is just a great way, specifically in those larger like team fights within the Dark Zone, to get some damage debuffs going out by hitting targets with the grenade. That's very easy to do when you run the firewall and have the cluster nade. So whenever it's convenient, I will throw one of these out. If I tag an enemy, that just means I'm going to be doing more damage to them. So like I said, whether you put this on your pistol or your secondary, wherever, definitely recommend. Before I forget, let me show you all a quick look at the crit stats on my primary here. I think this is about the same as it was before. I've got 55% crit chance with 137% crit damage. Not the absolute highest, maybe, but especially considering I'm running no crit based brands, I think this is very solid. And yeah, it works out plenty well for me. Now let's move on to the gear. We begin with my mask, which is the Catharsis exotic. This has not changed. Ever since this item dropped within the game a few years ago, it has been a staple and go-to item for me within PvP. It's just really solid, right? You build up damage stacks the more you get shot. That has the potential to then trigger, wipe any status effects that are on you off, and heal you for that 10 seconds. It's just a really solid item for PvP. So again, this has not changed. I used this in the last version and I keep using it now. Love my catharsis. Don't know what I'd do without it. Then we move on to the chest piece, and this is one of the first major changes that you're going to come across compared to prior iterations, because one of the areas in which the prior Slayer builds started to feel a bit outdated was how they did not have efficient on them. Efficient has really risen in popularity in the last, we'll say, 12 to 18 months within PvP, and for me at least, as soon as I started adopting it and using it on a few loadouts, it became increasingly difficult for me to go back to a build that didn't have it on. Right? Just the ability as the everyday carrier here gives us to have a 75% chance to retain your armor kit when you use it allows you to go for such, longer prolonged fights within the Dark Zone. Whether you're solo, whether you're in a group, it does not matter. Efficient just gets the job done. So as I said, I'm using this on the perfected version, which is the Bellstone named Everyday Carrier. This brand bonus, the 1% armor regen, doesn't really do anything for me on this build. I'm not speccing into that or armor, but it's purely the fact that the name version increases your chance of the kit not to be consumed up to 75 from 50. That said, you don't have to run this if you wanted to do regular efficient on a brand that is more tailored towards this build. You totally could. I'm just somebody who's really gotten used to that 75% value, but that is totally up to you. And so yeah, that's what we're rocking on here. I have armor, crit damage, crit chance, and a crit damage mod. Next, let's take a look at the holster, which is one of two pieces of Walker and Harris. In total, that's giving me 5% weapon damage and 5% damage to armor. And on here, no big shocker, I've got weapon damage, crit chance, and a crit damage mod. Let's then take a look at the backpack, in which we have our second piece of Walker and Harris. This is just how I used to have it laid out. However, we have changed the talent on here. And for any wondering, getting that 5% multiplicative damage to armor value on this is one of the best ways to ramp up our damage. So that's why I'm running this brand overall. But on here, I've got weapon damage, crit chance, crit damage mod with vigilance. One of the other cornerstones of the old Slayer builds was running Companion, specifically with a Seeker Mine to proc that consistent damage. One of the big trends recently, though, even though it's always existed, is people running decoys in the Dark Zone and really just, becoming as stealthy as possible to sneak up on you, get those kills. And so by me running a Seeker Mine that constantly follows me around with a loud whirring noise and gives away my position, it just wasn't really doing the job, again, in today's modern Dark Zone meta, if you will. And so this is what I've done. I've opted to go for vigilance. I am running a decoy, as we'll get to in a moment, and this just increases the gameplay options that I have when I'm within a firefight. So yeah, I really liked it so far. Let's then move on to the gloves. We have the Contractor's gloves, just the same as I used to run it. On here, I've got armor, the damage to armor multiplicative value, and crit damage. Just a really great piece, as they have always been, to boost DPS. For the knee pads, I've then got the Fox's Prayer once again, same as before. Weapon damage, detox, and crit chance on here. Speaking to those skills that we were just talking about, I've got the decoy in slot 1. Ever since these things got introduced, however many years ago, they have been very, very strong within PvP for how they essentially completely hide you from all enemy detection. And so whether it is to go and flank, whether it's just to decrease enemy visibility while you're in the middle of a fight, this is always done very well, and it helps us keep vigilance procced more of the time since enemies have a harder time seeing you and shooting you, so it works out very well. In the second slot, I then have the EMP Sticky Bomb. This has always been a fantastic skill for enemy stagger. That's really the main purpose that I'm using it for. Shoot it on the ground, someone runs into it, you pop it, they stagger around. Traditionally, this works best when you have kind of an up-close and personal playstyle and build, and even though I've decreased my total armor compared to the previous Slayer iteration because I'm running efficient, that means that while my kit is up, I'm more emboldened to be up close to the enemy, and so in those cases, it's very nice to have something like the EMP Sticky Bomb at my disposal. But of course, with this and the decoy, you can run whatever you'd like. And then finally, no surprise here, I've got the Firewall specialization. Very difficult to recommend anything else when this offers you such a strong medkit, armor kit, I should say. That is really the only reason we're running this. And yeah, when you pop a Firewall efficient armor kit, it's going to do you very well. Well, there you have it, everybody. That is the build, the Slayer 4.0. I just wanted to say I really appreciate all of the interest in this loadout over the years. I know that may sound silly, but I really enjoy how many people want to stay up to date on what I'm running and how that's really channeled itself into this one loadout series. So what I'm trying to say is thank you for watching. At this point, if you have any questions or thoughts on this latest iteration of the Slayer or, whatever else, as always, let me know down in the comments below. Happy to do my best to clear things up. That is all I've got for today, though. I will see you in the Dark Zone very soon, but until then, folks, RogueGold out.